Have you ever looked at your hands weathered, steady, familiar, and thought about all they've given? Meals cooked, clothes folded, tears wiped, backs rubbed, gifts offered without asking anything in return. And yet, there are days now when you look around and wonder, where did everyone go? You gave your time, you gave your love, you gave your energy, even when your body was aching. You gave understanding, even when you were the one who needed to be understood. You gave without keeping score, believing that kindness would speak for itself. And maybe it did, for a while. But now, the room is quieter than you expected it would be. The calls don't come as often. The thank yous have grown faint, replaced by quick goodbyes or no replies at all. And slowly, painfully, you start to wonder, was I only loved for what I could do? It's a heartbreaking thought, one most people your age don't say out loud. But I want to say it with you. I want to hold space for it. Because that quiet ache, the one that comes from always giving but rarely receiving, is real. And you are not alone in feeling it. Let me tell you about Natalie. She's 68, warm, dependable, the kind of mother and grandmother who remembers everyone's birthdays down to the exact time they were born. When her daughter was going through a divorce, Natalie dropped everything to help pick up the kids from school. Cooked dinners, cleaned the house, listened late into the night. She did it because she loves them, because that's who she is. But when Natalie's own health started to decline, when she needed help getting to the doctor or someone to pick up her groceries, the responses were brief. I'll try. I'm swamped. Can you ask someone else? And the silence between those words grew louder with each request she tucked back into her chest. She didn't want to seem needy. She didn't want to upset anyone. So she stopped asking. She told herself it was fine, but it wasn't fine. It felt like she had become invisible the moment she stopped being useful. That's a wound many carry, but few name. The belief that love has to be earned over and over again, or else it fades. But here's the truth. You were never meant to pour endlessly from a cup that no one helps to refill. And while you can't force others to reciprocate, you can begin to shift how you give and how you see yourself in ways that restore your peace and preserve your worth. One of the first things Natalie learned to do, though it didn't come easily, was to pause before saying yes. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But for someone who's spent decades responding with sure, and, of course, and whatever you need, that pause was revolutionary. When her grandson asked her to drive across town to babysit at the last minute, she paused. She didn't jump to rearrange her whole day. She didn't rush to rescue. She simply said, "Let me check how I'm feeling, and I'll let you know soon." That moment, the pause was a shift, a signal to herself that her time mattered, too. And when she looked at her calendar and realized she was already tired, already stretched thin, she made another brave move. She said no, not with guilt, not with drama, just with love. "Sweetheart, I won't be able to make it today. I hope you find someone who can help." At first, there was disappointment, maybe even a hint of frustration. But do you know what followed? Respect. Because when you begin to honor your own limits, you teach others how to honor them too. The second change Natalie embraced was allowing herself to receive. Not in grand ways, but in small, everyday moments where she used to brush off help, like when a neighbor offered to carry her groceries, or when a friend asked how she was feeling. In the past, she would have said, "Oh, I'm fine," even if she wasn't. Now, she breathes. She allows the kindness in. She says, "Actually, thank you. That would be helpful." Receiving is not weakness. It's not burdening others. It's balance. And for someone who has given so much for so long, receiving is a sacred form of healing. There's a quiet dignity in letting the world give back to you. You don't have to do everything alone. You don't have to prove your strength by suffering in silence. And perhaps most powerfully, you don't have to earn your right to rest. Let me ask you something gently, with no judgment. When was the last time you did something just for you? Not because it was practical, not because someone else needed it, but because it filled you up. It might have been years, but you can begin again. You can begin with a walk at your own pace, a favorite song played loud, just because, a meal cooked for no one else but you. You can begin with silence that isn't empty but sacred, a kind of homecoming to your own heart. And when you start living that way, when you stop giving out of fear of being forgotten and start giving from a place of fullness, something starts to shift. You don't feel as drained. You don't feel as resentful. You don't feel as invisible because you've made a choice, a bold, quiet choice. You've chosen to matter to yourself. Let's take a breath together. There's more to this story, more layers to gently unfold. But for now, just know this. You don't have to give everything away to be loved. You don't have to disappear to be accepted. You don't have to carry everyone to be worthy of being carried. There is a way forward, a way back to yourself that doesn't depend on anyone else changing first. And that journey begins right here. There's something deeply woven into the hearts of many people, especially those who grew up in a time where love was shown through service, not words. It's the quiet belief that if you just keep giving, someone will eventually see you, appreciate you, return the kindness you've poured out, bucket after bucket, year after year. But often, what begins as love turns into a pattern of forgetting yourself, a life where your needs are the last to be acknowledged, even by you. Lily knows this pattern well. She's 71 now, living in a small home by the river with her garden and her cat. Marbles. She's the kind of person everyone trusts. The one who'll watch your house when you're away. Take care of your dog. Remember your grandchild's dance recital? And yet, when Lily slipped and twisted her knee one winter afternoon, days went by before anyone checked in. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't want to be a bother. That phrase again, I didn't want to be a bother. How many times have you swallowed that sentence? Like a bitter pill, hoping your silence would earn peace. The truth is, avoiding conflict, avoiding trouble, often means avoiding your own truth. Lily used to smile through everything, even when she felt forgotten, even when her birthday went unnoticed, even when her neighbor dropped off laundry for her to fold without asking, just assuming she'd say yes. And she did, every time. But after that fall, something in her spirit whispered, enough. So she did something quietly radical. She began naming what hurt, not with blame, not with drama, but with honest, gentle words. When her neighbor came by the next week with another basket of clothes, Lily smiled, placed her hand on the basket, and said, I love helping when I can, but I've been needing more rest lately. I won't be able to fold these today. There was a pause, an awkward moment, but Lily didn't fill it with apologies. She let the truth stand on its own, and something happened. Respect entered the room. It didn't come from raising her voice or listing grievances. It came from the courage to stand in her needs without shrinking from them. That's the heart of it, isn't it? When we avoid saying what we need, when we keep giving to maintain peace, we slowly disappear. But peace without truth isn't peace. It's silence. And the price of that silence is steep. Noah, a retired teacher in his mid-70s, spent his whole life believing that love meant sacrifice. When his wife passed, he became even more available to his adult children, helping with errands, giving advice, fixing things, anything to stay close, anything to feel needed. But over time, the gratitude faded. Requests became expectations. And when Noah began saying no just once or twice, the responses were sharp, cold. Even, he sat with that sting one evening, hands folded in his lap, and asked himself the question so many ask in private. If I stop giving, will they stop caring? It's a terrifying thought. But the better question, the one that leads to healing, is this. If I keep giving everything, who will be left for me? Noah realized he had been trading parts of himself for a closeness that wasn't truly there. So he began the slow, steady process of reclaiming himself. He started with small boundaries. He stopped saying yes when he wanted to say no. He began scheduling his own life before fitting others in. And you know what he discovered? Not everyone took it well. Some pulled away, some protested, but those who truly loved him adjusted. Over time, they began to ask, not assume. They began to say thank you, not just take. And most importantly, Noah began to feel whole again. There is a quiet power in no longer giving from a place of fear. It's not about withholding. It's about honoring your energy, honoring your time, honoring the truth that you deserve care, too. And here's something that may surprise you. When you start valuing yourself not in loud, dramatic ways, but in steady, consistent ones, others begin to mirror that energy. Not always right away, not always how you hope, but your presence starts to change the temperature in the room. You become the calm, the one who no longer tiptoes or chases or overfunctions. You become rooted, and from that rootedness, something else begins to grow. Joy, the kind of joy that comes from doing things not to be needed, but because they light up your spirit. Claire, a soft-spoken woman with silver curls and eyes that used to carry worry, started writing poetry again. Just for herself. She hadn't written in decades, always saying she was too busy, too tired, too responsible. But once she stopped overextending, she found pockets of time, little windows of light, and in those windows, her soul came alive. She no longer checked her phone waiting for someone to remember her. She remembered herself. That's where the transformation begins. Not in changing other people, but in reclaiming the parts of you that were set aside to make room for everyone else. You don't need to abandon kindness. You don't need to harden your heart, but you do need to come home to yourself, to the part of you that knows, I am allowed to matter. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to speak. And if someone is only in your life because you're always saying yes, maybe it's time to see what happens when you stop. Take a deep breath now, not the kind you take before doing something for someone else, but the kind you take when you realize, I'm still here, and I still belong to myself. There is a beauty in that moment that no one can take from you. Something powerful happens when you stop waiting for others to refill your cup and you begin to fill it yourself. Slowly, gently, but with great care. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before life asked you to give so much away, before being helpful became your entire identity, before love got tangled with obligation. Madeline spent most of her adult life being the glue in her family. Her kids said it lovingly, like a badge of honor. But after years of coordinating, supporting, and smoothing things over, she found herself worn down not just in body, but in spirit. She never asked for help. Not really. She figured that if she kept showing up, kept giving, kept anticipating everyone else's needs, someone would eventually ask her, "And how are you, Mom?" But they didn't. Not because they didn't care, but because she had made it so easy to forget she needed anything at all. One day, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. She had just finished cooking a meal for her daughter's family and was washing the last dish. Her back aching, her knees stiff. Her granddaughter came in, gave her a quick hug, and asked if there were any cookies. "No, thank you." "No, how are you feeling?" Just a question. Then footsteps down the hall. Madeline dried her hands, looked at her reflection in the kitchen window, and whispered, "I'm tired." It was the first time she'd said it out loud. And from that moment on, she began choosing differently. She started by doing one small thing every day that was just for her. One morning, it was painting her nails a bold red. Something she hadn't done in years because she thought it was too flashy. Another day, it was sitting in the sun with a good book and ignoring the phone. Another, it was saying no to babysitting, even when she had no other plans, because she simply didn't feel like it. Each of these choices stitched her spirit back together, one thread at a time. And the most remarkable part, her family noticed, not because she made a speech or demanded attention, but because her energy had changed. She wasn't resentful. She wasn't chasing. She wasn't quietly begging to be seen. She was simply rooted. There's something magnetic about a person who is comfortable in their own presence. People feel it. They sense the peace, the boundaries, the self-respect, and over time, they begin to respond differently. When you stop overgiving, you create space for others to step in. And maybe they do, maybe they don't, but either way, you're no longer waiting at the door of someone else's love, hoping they'll open it wide enough for you to enter. You've already walked yourself home. Owen, a retired firefighter, used to spend hours fixing things for his grown children. Leaky faucets, dead car batteries, lawn maintenance. He'd drop everything, often canceling his own plans, to help out, but when he needed help moving a heavy piece of furniture, something he couldn't do alone, his texts went unanswered. He told himself they were busy, that it wasn't a big deal. But it was, because deep down, he realized his value had become transactional. And when he stopped giving, the relationship fell quiet. That silence was painful. But it was also honest. He sat with that space, and instead of filling it with guilt or excuses, he filled it with something else: intention. Owen joined a local woodworking group. He began volunteering at a shelter on Saturday mornings. He started sleeping in on Sundays without apologizing for it. And little by little, something changed, not just in his schedule, but in how he carried himself. He no longer needed to prove his worth through usefulness. He belonged not because of what he did, but because of who he was. This kind of restoration doesn't come overnight. It's a quiet rebuild, a slow remembering, a reclaiming of joy not as a luxury, but as a birthright. You were not born just to serve others. You were born to live, to feel sun on your face, to dance in your kitchen, to rest when you're tired, to ask for help without shame, to be loved, just as you are. And when you live from that truth, your relationships begin to mirror it. Not perfectly, not always quickly, but people begin to notice the absence of your old patterns, the immediate yes, the silent sacrifice, the emotional availability that once cost you everything. And those who truly care, they begin to show up differently, not because you demanded it, but because you stopped giving them everything at the expense of yourself. That's the shift. When you stop giving to be valued, and instead start valuing yourself regardless of what others give you, become emotionally unshaken. And it shows in the steadiness of your voice when you say no, in the pride you take in choosing what makes you happy, in the way your joy returns, not from their affection, but from your own. There is beauty in being needed, but there is peace in being whole, and you deserve peace. You deserve to be more than what you can do for others. You deserve to be known, to be seen, to be cherished, not just when it's convenient, but always. And the first step, it's not waiting for someone else to start. It's deciding, right here, that you will no longer shrink in the name of service, that your kindness will no longer be currency. It will be a gift, given freely, and never at the cost of your self-worth. Take a breath now. Let that truth settle. You do not have to overgive to be loved. You do not have to disappear to belong. You are allowed to live fully, freely, with a heart that beats for you, too. You are enough. If you're still here with me, I want to take this moment to speak directly to your heart, gently, sincerely, without rushing past it. Thank you. Thank you for being present through this conversation, for sitting with truths that may have touched old wounds, for holding space for your own story, even if no one else has asked to hear it in a long time. The fact that you stayed through this journey tells me something deep and beautiful about you. You're still open. You're still seeking. You're still strong in all the ways that matter most. This video was never about telling you who to be or how to live. It was about offering you a mirror, a soft, steady reflection of everything you've always been beneath all the giving. Because maybe the world forgot. Maybe your children forgot. Maybe the people who rely on your kindness forgot that you, and too, are human. That you feel deeply, that you get tired, that you need love and recognition, not just obligations dressed as relationships. But I didn't forget, and I hope that somewhere in the quiet corners of this video, you remembered, too. You remembered that your worth is not tied to how much you do for others. You remembered that rest isn't selfish, that saying no isn't cruel, that needing help isn't weakness, that joy, laughter, solitude, art, music, naps, gardens, books, and stillness, those things are not luxuries. They are your birthright. If your heart has been heavy lately, if you've been feeling overlooked, or like you're always the one pouring into others, but coming home with an empty cup, please know this. You are not alone, and your story is not over. There is still beauty waiting for you. Not in grand gestures, but in the tiniest, most sacred moments. Like the peace of your favorite chair by the window, the smell of something sweet baking in the oven just for you, the sound of your own laughter after a long time of silence. You are allowed to turn toward yourself now, to live from a place of fullness, not fatigue, to love from a place of abundance, not obligation. And if something in this message stirred your heart, if you felt seen, even for just a moment, I invite you to share a little of your story in the comments below. No need for anything polished, just honesty. Have you been in a season of giving without return? What has helped you remember your own worth? What quiet shift has made your days feel more like yours again? Because your words matter more than you know. Someone else reading them may feel a little less alone in their own journey. We build strength not just through advice, but through truth-telling, through saying, "I've felt this." And if this space felt safe for you, if you found comfort here, I'd love for us to stay connected. There's a small red button below this video that says, subscribe. And I know it can feel silly or unimportant, but it's not about numbers or notifications. It's about knowing that every time I post something new, we get to sit down together again, just like this. So if you want that, if you want to keep walking this road of healing and self-respect together, I invite you to click it. No pressure, no guilt, just an open door. And finally, let me leave you with this one last truth. You have given so much. You've carried families. You've held space for others' pain. You've bent yourself to fit into boxes you long outgrew. Now, you get to come home. Not to a place or a person, but to yourself. You get to rest. You get to ask. You get to say no. You get to feel joy without needing a reason. You get to give from fullness, not from fear. You get to be loved, not for what you do, but simply for who you are. And who you are is enough, exactly as you are. Today, right now. So breathe, feel your feet on the ground, feel your heart still beating, and know that the journey back to yourself is the most sacred journey of all. I'm honored to walk it with you. Until next time, take care of yourself, not just because others won't, but because you finally remember that you deserve it, always.